The wisdom of Yesira, the breath of life, the soul. Kolbrin Bible, Book 2, Gleanings, Chapter 11. Nature of man within all is a spark of divine source, that is, the Lord of the body, which is, I believe, the soul. It alone is everlasting. GLN 11:10. Behold the nature of man. Within him is a spark from the divine source, and this is the Lord of the body. This alone is everlasting. This alone of man is his true self. This spark is enwrapped within a heavy mantle of matter. It is enclosed in a covering of earthly clay. This spark alone is the seed of life. It alone has understanding and thought. Such things are not with the clay of the flesh, neither are they kin to the stones from which the bones come. The life within man radiates out from the enclosed spark, and through the blood endows the body with life and heat. Life gives forth heat, and the greater the life, the greater the heat. As the sun gives life, so does the central light cause a vaporous, unseeable glow. This ancestors called the breath of life comes forth in two manifestations, a heavy form and a light form. From this comes the sacred glow in its two aspects. This makes everything of heaven and earth. GLN 11:11. As the sun gives light and fire spreads heat, as the flower radiates perfume, so does the central light give forth a vaporous, unseeable glow, and this our fathers called the breath of God. This breath comes forth in two manifestations. There is a heavy form and a light form, and from these all things are compounded. From the one comes the sacred glow in its two aspects, which men call the breath of God, and from this are made all things which are in heaven and earth. Above is God, below is heaven and earth. Heaven is divided between light and dark. Light dwells spirits of good, dark the spirits of evil. The boundary is not fixed. It flows back and forth according to their fluctuation strength. But light will always drive away darkness. This light is not the same light as on earth. GLN 11:12. Above is the God of gods, and below him are heaven and earth. Heaven is divided in twain. There is a place of light and a place of darkness. Within the place of light dwell the spirits of good, and within the place of darkness dwell the spirits of evil. Between them the boundary is not fixed, but flows back and forth according to their fluctuating strengths. But they who abide in the light shall always prevail, for light will ever dispel darkness. Therefore those who dwell in darkness withdraw from the brilliance of those who dwell in the light. This light and darkness are not such as men can understand, for it is not the light and darkness known on earth. Before the gates of heaven is the land of the horizon. From here is two great gates, one for the light, one for the dark. Lord of the body, the soul, is admitted to its appointed place. GLN 11:13. Before the gates of heaven is the land of the horizon, whence go all who depart from their earthly body. From here there are two great gates. One leads to the place of light, and the other to the place of darkness. And the Lord of the body is admitted into its appointed place, according to its likeness. He who is filled with the light cannot go to the place of darkness, for it would draw back before him. Neither can he who is a dark one go into the place of light, for there he would shrivel before the light, as the white worm coming forth from the damp darkness of its hole shrivels in the light of the sun. Between heaven and earth, a great gulf. Dwellers in heaven cannot traverse, but earth is not wholly beyond their reach. GLN 11:14. Between heaven and earth there is a great gulf, across which the dwellers in heaven may not return. But earth is not wholly beyond their reach. Man receives from the place of light that which influences him for good, and from the place of darkness that which affects him for evil. These things may be written, but the secret things concerning them may not be recorded in such a manner that they come to the knowledge of the unenlightened men. Comes from the heaven is seen as if veiled, but this is rare. More likely it is from leukemia, which I believe is a virus or a disease, coming from water or airborne. but not as air we breathe or feel. It is not stable. These are the formless ones. They can alter form into instability. GLN 1115. That which comes from heaven, whether influencing for good or evil, comes forth as shades in the likeness of men, which is rare, or much more often as lakim, which are like unto motes. It may also come as waves of air, but not air such as we breathe and feel. It is something altogether different in nature. Things come forth which are not stable, and these are the formless ones. All things are held in form by the breath of God, which changes formlessness, but the formless ones can alter form into instability. Three great spheres. Earth is contained and held together by the great afterglow, outflowing from God. The light that contained life, called mana, and that of flesh is called manu. GLN 1116. There are three great spheres, and that containing the earth is held together by the great glow, outflowing from the God of gods. That part of the great glow, which is light and contains life, is called mana, while that which is heavy and contains the flesh of things of the earth is called manu. God cannot be defined in speech or conceived him in thought. So conceive him as you will, providing the conception serves his purpose in glorification of man. Man isn't great yet, so until he does, it is better he worship the many God forms conceived by man. Ritual and worship do no harm, as long as it is not so thickly overlaid that the truth is buried from sight. GLN 1117. The one who is the God of gods is so great that he cannot be defined in the speech of men, neither can they conceive him in their thoughts, for he is beyond their understanding. Mortal man has limitations, therefore let man conceive him as they will. It is of no importance, providing their conception serves both his purpose and the glorification of man. GLN 1118. Man is not yet great, and until he becomes so, it is well that he worship the many God forms conceived within his thoughts, providing they be such as tend to raise him above himself. Nor do ritual and worship do harm of themselves, unless they too thickly overlay the truth, so it is buried from sight. Ritual and outward forms of worship can be aids to purification of thought and provide a kind of sustenance for the Lord of the body. What are the lesser gods beloved by unawakened men, but thought-conceived friends and guides? Yet this is a dangerous path. Men tread, balanced between light and darkness. Therefore, when man wanders towards the abyss of darkness, reveal a little more light, that he may see and so return to the path. Beware, too, lest he follow gods that are false guides, and would lure him into the quicksand of carnality, or into the wilderness of ignorance. Ritual and worship can aid purification. What are the lesser gods but thought-conceived friends and guides? However, it is dangerous, balanced between light and darkness, so when man wanders too close to the abyss, shed a little more light, which I think is knowledge. Beware following gods that are false guides to lure us into quicksand of carnality, or worse, wilderness of ignorance. The division of heaven into two aspects seems at odds with today's views. As for Lakim, it isn't so clear here, but later it goes into more detail. They talk of hygiene in words that label Lakim as both invisible, but it also sounds like a reference to pests, rodents, bugs, roaches, as harbingers of Lakim's presence. Ignorance seems to be the danger we face more often. We tend not to think of the future. We have labeled some words as forbidden because they might offend, and that is fine for us. But if the errors of the past are not taught, in a few generations, they tend to lean toward making the same errors, many times by those who think they're doing good because they lack the knowledge of the truth we choose to hide, whether it be for good reasons or bad.